outside of the kind of like normal communities that we all live in and participate in, when it comes to B2B, I think one of the things that really stands out to me is marketers often talk now about folks that are in market to buy the product and folks that are in the market, but not in the market to buy the thing that you have today, right? So there's kind of the 5% of the market that's ready to buy, and there's the 95% that's not ready to buy. And if you're only doing marketing that's focused on the people in market, right? Kevin, you're the one that's out there ready to buy my product. I only want to talk to you. You're ignoring the other 95% that at some point converts, some part of them convert to the 5% that are in market. How do you build relationships or invest in building a relationship with the other 95% in such a way that they find you helpful, they find you trustworthy, they find you visible, that when they do get to the point where they're in market for the thing that you do, or their friends at other businesses are in market for the thing you do, they say, you know who I trust in this space? I trust Derek. I trust Kevin. I trust the business that they work in because I've known them for several months, several years, what have you. And these communities, if done right and being helpful, can allow you to reach much, much greater parts of the market that can be leveraged in non-demand ways.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the E-Marketing Association. My day job is I run a digital marketing agency that does traditional work as well as a result of some acquisitions. I have my own brand, Truth Nutrition, which I use to run marketing experiments under. Marketing experiments that might be too scary for Did It clients to run. And I run a nonprofit, Giving Forward. Super excited to be chatting with Derek Weeks today, who wears a couple of hats, but recently was compelled, I think, to write a book, which you did, the Unfair Mindshare book. So having written 3 books myself and having sworn after the first one never to do 2 more, I'm curious sort of what the catalyst was for you deciding that there was a need for a book.
Yeah, well, certainly, Kevin, I appreciate the chance to come on and talk with you. And always exciting to talk to fellow authors who have run the gauntlet and been through the effort of writing and then publishing the book. And also in that camp, I will say at this moment after this is my 3rd book, but it is the first one that I wrote solo. The other 2 were collaboration books. And so I definitely came out of this as, no, I never want to write another book again. There's so much effort that goes into the whole process of, writing was the easy part. It's everything else of editing and go to market that is certainly a monumental effort. But the getting back to your question on what ignited my interest in writing a book. As a marketer, marketing executive in B2B startups for the last 30 years, and executive for more than half of that, I had a vision on how to approach various markets, and it always started with, I'm at a company that has a product that has a certain capability, but that product always interacted with other products or other processes in a market that needed to find find the connection between those things and find connection between people. And the more I recognized how our products fit into the world of others, it really expanded my view on how we would go to market. And as part of that journey, I looked at integrated partner marketing, I looked at influencer marketing, and I looked at what evolved into community-led marketing. As such, back in 2016, a colleague of mine and I, at a company we were working in, started um, an experiment with a couple of friends in the industry where we said we're going to go and teach everyone about a certain subject, or I should say more so, really create a forum for people to come and exchange information on the particular subject area that our business happened to be in. We weren't trying to pitch our products or tell people about our products, but just create this forum of exchange and interaction and helpfulness. That idea grew from an idea into an online conference in 2016, well before COVID, well before anyone was thinking of doing online conferences. But 90 days later, 13,000 people showed up to this thing. We were on to a new way of connecting with people and interacting on a global basis. The next year that we did it, over 33,000 people showed up into this community forum and built relationships through an online conference and a community that lasts until this day. Even though I'm not, operational in that community on a day-to-day basis anymore, I still have outreach and friends, here and there that contact me from that community. Now, as we did this and grew this, it felt like a natural way to reach and interact with the markets that we were serving. But as I talked to other marketers out, in the world, fellow CMO friends of mine, people in different businesses, and I told them about this experience, all of them were like, wow, like that's really incredible. How did you do that? I don't even understand the mode of thinking that would be required to approach something like that and do it right. Or I tried to do something like that, but it failed miserably. And I just recognized through all of these conversations that this knowledge of something that seemed so obvious to me and my colleague and a couple of friends of ours was not obvious to other people. And I knew that in order to help give back to the community and share my knowledge, that it was more than 3 blog posts that needed to come together to tell, like, hey, here's how we approached it and did it. And so I took some time off from my day job and spent months sitting down, writing and editing this book to make the concepts accessible to people on how to not only do community-led marketing, because there are a couple of other books on how to run communities, product communities, communities of interest, etc., that are very good from people that I know pretty well. But the thing that my book did as a marketing executive was say, here's a story of how we build a large community and how some others have built large communities as well. But how do you then take that community and tie it to the thing that generates revenue for your business? How do you tie community to your brand and to your products in a way that feels natural for your audience or your market? And that was the real secret sauce. It wasn't start a community because there are lots of communities out there. It was, how do you connect the community to the thing that makes you business or generates revenue for your business, so that you can continue to invest in all the goodness of community and the reach that it has year after year. If the community lever that you have in marketing is not helping you generate more revenue, it becomes harder and harder to invest in it as a CMO, right? Or talking to your CEO or your CFO. And so the book really ties those concepts together about integrating community, brand, and product marketing together.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. One recurring theme that I sort of got from my perusing of the book, I haven't had a chance to sit down and read the whole thing yet, was this idea of sort of threads that run through communities. Are these ideas about everyone is really being helpful.
Yeah.
Right. And that helpfulness almost is like creates the community, right? Because people face business challenges and marketing challenges all the time. And they can't necessarily always find the answer on Google or Bing or their chatbot of choice within the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And helpfulness from humans, right, is what ties and binds a community together. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how does one assure, that if one creates a community that it's in fact a helpful community, like the culture of the community comes through.
Yeah. I think that it's such an important point about, I think, basic human behavior. How and why do people, a community is a place, whether this is, your local, high school football team, your church within a community, your farmer's market, or your B2B product company. They all form various communities of people that gather, that want to interact, that want to exchange value, exchange information, to be resources for one another, to find common purpose, common core values, right? And it's one of these things that, in the opposite of being helpful in these communities is saying, here's a place and a forum to gather. And by the way, right, as you come into this, Kevin, I have a great product to sell you. And let me tell you about my product. And this product is so great. And you're like, Derek, like, I'm just here to kind of meet other people and learn and become better at this particular profession or this particular pursuit that I have. And if you're helping people become better at being a software tester, being a DevOps professional, being a farmer, being a better, genetic engineer, whatever that might be, the helping people become better at what they do is the helpfulness that is not a kind of sales motion or pitch. And so I think that is core to why people gather in any kind of community. Like, take a local church, or the soccer moms and dads that come together and join, celebrate, carpool together, do whatever. Like, why are you part of this, and what does it bring to you, and how is it helpful in your life? Now, outside of the kind of like normal communities that we all live in and participate in, when it comes to B2B, I think one of the things that really stands out to me is marketers often talk now about folks that are in market to buy the product and folks that are in the market, but not in the market to buy the thing that you have today, right? So there's kind of the 5% of the market that's ready to buy, and there's the 95% that's not ready to buy. And if you're only doing marketing that's focused on the people in market, right? Kevin, you're the one that's out there ready to buy my product. I only want to talk to you. You're ignoring the other 95% that at some point converts. Some part of them convert to the 5% that are in market. How do you build relationships or invest in building a relationship with the other 95% in such a way that they find you helpful, they find you trustworthy, they find you visible, that when they do get to the point where they're in market for the thing that you do, or their friends at other businesses are in market for the thing you do, they say, you know who I trust in this space? I trust Derek. I trust Kevin. I trust the business that they work in because I've known them for several months, several years, what have you. And these communities, if done right and being helpful, can allow you to reach much, much greater parts of the market that can be leveraged in non-demand ways. So I'll give one example and then I'll pause. But imagine if we're going to go out and run a survey in a market. I can pick the people that are in market that I have a relationship with, that I'm trying to sell to, and are paying attention to my stuff, and say, let's go out and survey 500 people. But in a community of interest, if I'm serving that and reaching this much broader audience, not selling, and I go out and survey that audience, I could get 5,000 people participating in that. 5,000 people participating in my survey, and me publishing that survey makes me a pretty good thought leader in the industry, right? So when it comes to marketing and community, the community is giving me, if I do it right, community is giving me a lot greater reach for other things that can help my marketing along the way.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great points. One of the things I noticed, when I was on a founding board member of SEMPO, the Search Engine Marketing Professionals Organization, and the community element of that was the fact that folks who on paper were competitors and were active members of the community would really create this rising tide scenario. Like, everybody benefited. Because if you don't think of your competitor as your competitor, but really just as an industry participant, and if you really have the best interests of the customer in mind, the customer should pick the best solution. And if you're not that, why would you want them to pick you over the other one, right? So once you sort of change that mindset for the people who are in the community thinking that way, it was a very different mindset than, oh, in the Gartner chart, we're competitors. Therefore, like, I can't talk to you. I can't share anything with you. Like, I'm supposed to hate you.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, we're so used to companies trying to sell us or people trying to sell us. I mean, if you're active on LinkedIn, any day you go in there, there's 3-5 connection requests of someone that's like, I'm a CMO. Here's someone that is a salesperson or a CEO of a small startup that has marketing technology. And if I accept the invitation, they're immediately pitching me like, hey, Derek, I got this great thing. I need you to, buy it or buy my product or buy my service. They're not trying to help me. I mean, they feel like they're trying to help me by saying, I have this new thing that can make you a lot more productive and save you time and save you money, what have you. But it doesn't feel authentic because they just start in with the pitch, not, hey, Derek, like, we have a common interest in marketing. I want to share that common interest. I want to share some things that I've done.
So I'd love your perspective on sort of open versus closed communities, because it's probably a decision that needs to be made fairly early on if one's going to go down the path of not just community participation, but community creation, where you want to sort of be the anchor, the fiscal sponsor of the community, right?
Yeah.
In that, you can have a closed community where people can sort of, I think, be a little more honest about what they say because they know it's just the other community members. And then there's sort of more open community forums and a bunch of software that could be used to create those as well. The advantage of it being open is as people ask very, very granular questions, if the community forum answers that question really well, it's going to show up in Google or Bing or now in an LLM chatbot result potentially, right? And so there's, potentially huge advantages to participants in that their subject matter expertise spills out of the community versus a closed community where your subject matter expertise is there and people are saying, wow, Derek is just so helpful. Like he's the go-to guy, right? And so do you feel like there are strategic implications to making that open versus closed community decision?
Absolutely there are, but I wouldn't say there's a open versus closed as a right versus wrong thing.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example of 2 different communities I've participated in for many years. Both of them in a kind of online base, but there's also, we connect in person every once in a while with the various people in these community groups. So one is a group called CMO Coffee Talk. Every Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, me and 75 to 150 maybe chief marketing officers or heads of marketing join in a Zoom call, and there is a subject that chief marketing officers care about This morning it was working with channel partners. It could be working with your CFO. It could be how do you reinvent your brand, any number of topics. This community was started by Heinz Marketing, consulting firm, and 6 Sense, that's a tech company in this space. They started this forum for CMOs to help CMOs become better at their jobs. It is a closed community that you have to be the CMO or the head of marketing at your business. They don't allow anyone else. None of my direct reports can participate in this forum. As such, the things that we discuss, it's never recorded, right? We're all in there, Chatham House rules. We can talk about our business, our challenges, our constraints, our wins, right? In a forum of people that are our peers that can help us out and guide us and say, I heard the headache you're dealing with. You're not alone. I dealt with that. 5 other people, I dealt with that. Here's how I dealt with that. Here's options on how to manage it. That environment serves me and the others in it. And, every Friday morning, 3 or 4 years, I've been doing this. It's extremely helpful. It would not be helpful if they said, hey, Derek, anyone at your company can participate in this. If they're in any kind of marketing role, or maybe even if they're in sales, the kind of privacy that we have and the trust that we've built in this closed community serves us very well, that we can have these open, authentic, sometimes vulnerable conversations. And we've helped each other, and we meet in person at marketing conferences that, we all gather. Like there's always a, who's going to the Forrester B2B Summit? Who's going to be in Austin for that? People raise their hands like, let's meet at this bar in, Austin, or this coffee shop or what have you, so that we can have that in-person exchange. So that closed community is very helpful. On the other side, All Day DevOps is a community that I founded and grew to over 100,000 members. Was a very open community. Literally, if you were a student, if you were a CEO, if you were a VP, if you were a director, if you're a developer, anyone and everyone was welcome. We made the community free. It was free to access our Slack online discussion forum. It was free to attend our online conference. Our goal from the beginning was educate as many people on DevOps worldwide as we could. Because the ways before we started this, the ways to do it were go to an industry conference, regionally, nationally, internationally. You have airfare, hundreds to thousands of dollars in airfare, hundreds to thousands of dollars in hotel costs, hundreds to thousands of dollars in conference fee. It was prohibitive, and organizations might have 1,000 people trying to learn DevOps, but they could only afford to send 2 people to this event. We went open from the very beginning, and that benefited us by bringing in a lot of people and being helpful to them. The other thing that is, even we amplified the openness of this community, was the ideas that grew the community were not ours as a core organizer. So Kevin, you'd participate in this community. And you'd come to me and say, Derek, I'm having a great time. Like, this is a great community. I'm learning so much. But the thing that you guys are missing is like, it would be awesome if there was a forum for cultural transformation within DevOps, because a lot of people are talking about tech and, blah, blah, blah. But like, I need this, and I think other people need it. And instead of us saying, well, let's see if we want to add that to the things that we're doing, we would say, that's an awesome idea. Kevin, if you want to run that, you can be the lead on that, and we will support amplifying, like, hey, Kevin thought this was a great idea. He wants to gather people into this forum for conversations. And that often kicked off a multi-year commitment from people, not like any kind of contractual commitment, but they just came back year after year. Like, I started this, I'm running it. We have all these people discussing this. I'm getting value out of it. I've learned a lot. I've invited more people to join. They've gotten more out of it. So we grew from our community being open, but also open to anything that they had. And sometimes they said like, oh, let's run a government track at the conference. And we ran that the first year and it was honestly kind of a flop. And so we didn't do it the next year. And then someone said, I think it's still missing. I think we need it. So we started it up again. But we served the community more to what they wanted than what we wanted. And I think when a community has an opportunity to get what they want, it thrives more often, right?
That's a really valid point. I was trying to think through your sort of financial justification conversations, right? And again, you want to run the community. Certainly, the community serves an important role in sort of upper funnel. I guess you'd call it, like it's keeping your awareness. You want to be top of mind in the category. You want to have your participants active as subject matter experts. And so when you chatted with the CFO or CEO about it, did you position it as a form of earned media, essentially, almost like next to digital PR or PR or that kind of thing, or influence marketing? You said it was also part of your journey as you sort of thought through community, because in comparison, usually people think, oh well, it's upper funnel. I do brand advertising, like I do sponsorships, I'm at events, etc. But this sort of feels a little bit more like earned media. And so I'd love to, first of all, hear how you discussed it with the CFO or CEO with regards to continuing to invest in it. And then how did you manage to, justify it from an ROI perspective in a way that didn't compromise the community?
Yeah. That is a great question. So first of all, as you said, there's this brand element to it. It's very soft. It's very hard to go to a CFO and have that conversation, or even a CEO, and say, just trust me. It's worth it. It's worth putting, 5 or 6 figures of investment, even 4 figures of investment into this. We started with a very low 5-figure investment when we were starting off, and that brought 13,000 people into a room, which was a good return. But the brand side of it remains soft. It's a very hard conversation to have. So the conversations that I was really having, and I continue to have, because at my current company where I'm CEO or CMO, is Katalon. We have a 75,000 person product community that we gather people, help people out on a global basis. But the way that I looked at it is every quarter through the community activity, I have to say X number of people participated. Of those people, X% of them that were in our target spot of the market, because not everyone at the broadest level of our community of interest was even closely tied to what we did. They were just in the broad industry or community, but we brought in all these people. There is a segment of those people that actually care about the thing that our company does. For those people, we have brought them into a campaign. That campaign is converting into so many, MQLs, SALs, closed won business. And I can say for X amount of money, we're getting X amount of leads coming into our business that are converting to X amount of sales opportunities that are converting to X amount of revenue. And that revenue is considerably higher. It could be 5 to 20 times higher than the investment that we put into it. So a very strong marketing return on investment. And as much as I could say, oh, we got 50 pieces of press coverage, we had I touched 100,000 people doing this. We show up to conferences and people are like, you guys are so cool. That doesn't make it to the board meetings. Like, people are like, okay, that's good. I can kind of feel that, but we're actually, one of the guys that wrote a great community book, David Spinks, in his book said, you have to understand that businesses operate by a golden rule, and that's to make more money than they spend. And if you can't tie that into we spent this amount, we generated this amount of revenue, then it's going to be hard to come back on these investments. Now, or to invest in these year over year. So let me get a very practical example. If if we both decide our company is going to host an event in New York City, you have an event where you're going to talk about your company and your products and invite people into that forum, and your executives from your business are going to speak, and your CEO and your head of sales and your head of product and your head of strategy, and maybe you even have a customer that is attending to talk about how they use your product. Okay, so you're pitching that to an audience in your market. Now, I'm a competitor of yours, and I'm also hosting an event in New York, but I decide I'm going to go out to the community that is part of our industry, and I'm going to invite various thought leaders from across the industry or practitioners to share their experience. What's it like running, this particular technology if we're at a software company? How do I get people to adopt this technology? Who might I look at combining into various solutions? How do I hire people into these roles? And absolutely nothing to do with my products and my company. I'm just bringing people together to talk about this. I'm going to get 4 to 5 times the audience that you are going to get if we're kind of equal sized businesses, because people want to come to my thing because I'm not pitching them. People hear of your thing, it's like, oh, I get the subject, but it's all of your employees and salespeople in the room. And like, I'm not in the market for that product, but I am in the market to learn. So I'm going to Derek's thing. So when we ran these large community endeavors, and we get tens to hundreds of thousands of people participating, as part of the online conference that we hosted, we had 180 speakers every year participating in this. When I went to then go to do a company event in New York, and our field marketing team said, do you know anyone that can speak about this? I was like, oh yeah, I know 8 people in New York. I can invite them. They will talk about their area of interest, share that experience with others. We will get a lot more people in the room. By the way, you know who's organizing the event? Our company. The registration desk is run by people that are at our company. Do you know who's standing in the room in the cocktail hours or the break time? It's our salespeople that are covering this particular region for these customers. So those people we can leverage the community relationships to bring speakers into our events. We can generate a much larger attendee audience for that. And when people say, wow, Derek's company was really helpful in helping me learn more about this, when we then follow up on that with, hey, by the way, if you happen to be interested in the products that we have, right, here's a way to engage with us. That is a much softer, warmer entry point than you guys just holding a product session, company session. So there were things we did like that of host a conference, run a community survey, create a maturity model, create reference architectures, write books, turn the book write blogs, turn the blogs into books, publish the books for the industry, give them out in the industry. We did a lot of that through the community, but then we're able to draw that interest into our core marketing events to draw larger audiences. And when you're a marketing team and you're like, hey, I started with a room in New York City of 50 people, right? I'm going to nurture those 50 people down into opportunities. I'm going to generate more business saying my room started with 500 people in it. And just if our conversion rates are both the same, I just started with 10x the audience that you did as part of that. And I think that's how it works from the investment in the community to the return on pipeline and conversion into closed won.
Cool. How should a CMO or the marketing team decide whether to, or what the balance is between starting one's own community, which seems like it'd be a fairly significant investment, and maybe has an 18 to 24 month, turnaround before you start to see how much momentum you're getting versus being heavy participants in pre-existing communities? Like,
Yeah.
what's the balance there? How should they think that through?
So one, the difference between product communities and communities of interest that are much broader. If you're a product company, you should have a product community. You should have people that are enthusiastic about using it. You should create forums for them to come together and exchange that expertise. So I'm not anti-product community. My team is responsible for running a 75,000 member product community. And I see the benefit of doing that for our customers, our users, and our business overall. When I look at communities of interest, and as you said, they can take 12 to 18 months to gather steam, and maybe product communities, the same thing. What I often tell people is, in order to really make an impact from a community perspective, you probably need to dedicate at least 1,000 hours a year. That is half of a full-time resource, right? In the market, in the community, participating, being helpful, helping to lead and organize and facilitate things in the industry. The easiest way to start is not to start your own community.
Right.
Let's say, and this is kind of what we did around the all-day DevOps idea as well, is we just didn't start from like, we have this idea, let's go and make it happen. We spent about 1.5 years in the DevOps community. We participated in it. We went to the conferences. We went to the meetups. We contributed by speaking at the meetups. We helped organize some of the meetups. We helped sponsor some of the meetups. And we met all of these great people within this community. And part of that experience allowed us to understand these communities are all great, but there's something missing. There's a product market gap, if you will, that exists within this community that we believe we can create a community, a new segment of this overall community to fill this gap that is missing. And because we participated in so much of it, we could identify that missing need that we could fill. The thing that I tell, and so when you think about starting a community versus participating in them, if we are going out and thinking about a marketing community, there are lots of marketing communities in our local area. If you don't have 1,000 hours to commit to an existing community that already has membership, that's already doing something, you didn't have to build that. But if you don't have 1,000 hours to participate in being a true, tried and true member of that community and recognized contributor, there's no way you can start a community from scratch with 0 members and try and grow it to something even bigger than that local thing. So kind of the litmus test that I ask people is like, before you go out and start your own, just participate in the existing ones, because the existing ones are always looking for help. There's never enough people that want to help and organize and facilitate and all that. But when you do, you can make a big impact. Like, here's someone that's committing a lot of time. They're seen as being super helpful to gathering these other people in the community. You can see the effort that it takes and understand more of the investment, because it comes at 1,000 hours. If you don't have time to contribute into an existing community, it's going to take even more time to build from scratch that you have nothing from. And if you think that that's under 1,000 hours, you're kidding yourself. So I often tell people that say, should I start or not? I often point them to pick a community in this thing that you want to do, open banking, genetics, farming, whatever it is. They say, pick a community that already exists and contribute to that. And if they're like, I'm just kind of too busy, I can only go like for an hour once a month. They're like, if you're only willing to give 12 hours a year, you're not going to make an impact in that local community, let alone be able to grow something within inside your own business or your own industry.
So one thing that might be a little scary for some CMOs and for other folks as well, if they have an internal subject matter expert, maybe it's a person from product or whatever, who can go out there and even has the bandwidth to participate in that community, is that that person's building their personal brand, right?
Yeah.
And it makes them a lot more valuable. And
Yeah.
so when, the headhunters are out there, right? Even in the current job environment, if there's somebody who's built their personal brand, it's almost like some of these broadcast networks where their anchors have now become more powerful as a result of their social media presence, where when
Right.
the contract comes up for renewal, they're like, well, I got, 16 million followers, like how, that's worth something, right?
Yeah.
So should the executive team be concerned, right, that they've got this charismatic, intelligent product person that they're going to send out into the community, paying for their hours basically
Yeah.
to build their personal brand and the corporate brand at the same time?
Yeah. Uh, yeah. It's also a great question. I remember when I was at this company, Sonotype, and I was running the all day DevOps community along with a number of my colleagues and then people outside our business overall. There was a point in a conversation that I had with our other marketing executives there and our company executives to say, I've actually built a pretty strong personal brand. But as a steward of the brand and this company, I'm afraid that if I were ever to leave this business, my brand would go with that and detract from the growth that we were a high growth company for the many years that I was there. The company is still doing very well. But I said, we need to be careful on the balance of how much I'm out there as the face of the company versus others to make sure that, whether if I decided to leave the company or if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, right, that the company would not be hurt by that. So I said, I'm purposely going to kind of mellow down, if you will, in the way that I participate in the market to not overly shine in my personality. And I didn't go from like super influencer to unknown,
Yeah.
but it was just creating the right balance of that to make sure that the business remained healthy. And I think I would offer that reflection to whether it's you or someone on your team, just making sure that you strike the right balance on that. And if the person is just out for their personal brand, that's their um, that could be their particular motivation to get out there. But then you have to say, are you helping our brand or not? I remember, we had conversations, and I've been in businesses in the past where we went out and hired an industry influencer, right? And in the conversations with the influencer, they're like, look, I have my brand, I have my 100,000 followers or whatever it is. I got them by not talking about the companies that I worked at, right? But I brought credibility to the table. You have to look at, like, what are you investing in? What are you buying in? Because those people, if I said, can you stand in front of this audience and pitch our product, would say, no, that would actually hurt my personal brand. But if we were, say, a marketing company hiring a marketing influencer, if you want me to stand in front of an audience and talk about marketing best practices in a way that draws a very large audience to this room that you can then nurture along, I'm more than happy to do that. But I think it's just respecting what actually got them there to that brand and recognizing it. The marketing does not always have to be about pitching your product. Going back to our earlier conversation, if that influencer with 100,000 followers in marketing stands in front of an audience and can get you an audience 5 or 10 times bigger than you could by talking about your product, that is measurable impact for your business that may not be tied to them because they weren't talking about your product, but they were giving you more of the attention of the audiences out in your market.
Great. Well, that's a lot to digest there. Is there
Yeah.
anything we should have covered in our conversation so far that we haven't?
That there's always a lot of stuff that we could cover, but I think it's the um, part of what I'll leave people is when you think about marketing investments, right? And how we think about modern marketing. And there is a lot in modern marketing that is, we're a data-driven organization. We are, investing in technology that automates certain things and gets these, gets the engines going and amplifying as a marketing machine. You can't get overly fixated on just the numbers and the mechanics and the scale and the analytics and the data around marketing. It all comes back to human relationships, right? I can guarantee you in 10 years or 50 years from now, the human relationships will still be a critical part of any business getting to market and succeeding in their market. The technology that we use today, the data and the way we look at it, relevant, right? Like, will it change? Will the thing we're doing today change 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Absolutely. But the human relationship side of it will never change. And you have to just balance that, we're all humans. We're all in, trying to make the thing that we're doing better. Don't lose sight of the human aspect of marketing and the right balance of which to give that in your organization.
Well, that's a great final comment, because people buy from people, not from brands. So
yeah. You mentioned my book earlier. I'll show it here for those listening or watching. Unfair Mindshare is the name of the book. So if you want to learn a little more about community-led marketing, you can certainly do that. It's available on Amazon and other online retail channels. But yeah, it's just a glimpse into the world that we've been talking about here. But hopefully, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was just trying to be helpful to people by sharing some knowledge out there on here's how you can think about marketing maybe a little differently than you're typically thinking about it day to day.
Well, thanks so much for sharing some additional knowledge and expertise today.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.